Tomorrow's a big work day for me. I got a morning show, afternoon show, and 2 stand-up shows tomorrow night because I'm not one of the elites. I work for a fucking living. And my job is joy. Just bringing happiness. It's what I do. And relieving anxiety and giving perspective. My method is comedy. My purpose is understanding. And that said, on my way out the door, a moment about comedy, if I may. There has been much to do about Dave Chappelle and others and the jokes they make and whether it's okay to make jokes about things. And here's the final word on that. Anything you can't joke about or have joked about yourself, you give power to. You codify and strengthen anything you can't joke about topic-wise. And therefore, you risk overpowering your personal worth in the world. Also, comedy shows, comedy venues specifically, are unique environments. They are consensual acts by the audience and the performer. Now, if you go into a comedy show and judge what is funny based on topic or point of conversation, and not on the quality of the jokes and whether or not they actually function as jokes, it is the same as going in to a swingers club with a moral judgment that the consensual sex that is going on at this swingers club is not consensual and having everyone arrested. That's the same thing. It is the same thing as looking at a mosh pit at a metal show and thinking it's a real fight. It looks like a real fight to you because you don't know what a mosh pit is for. And every subject, the step before violence or the step before permanent division, the thing that stops the violence and the permanent division, where people can't see eye to eye, is joking about where people don't see eye to eye and joking about the misunderstandings. If you cannot do that, you bypass that step and you go straight to the violence or the permanent separation. And I'm not telling you this is my moral view. I'm not telling you this is my philosophical take on it. I'm telling you this is how human beings work. And the only time there is a topic that a comedian can't joke about is if they are not talented enough to make those jokes. If a subject is really fucking heavy, you cannot hold it up on toothpicks. And that's where most people fail. Most comedians that joke about really heavy topics simply are not talented enough, like yours truly, to make those jokes, and those jokes will, with those jokes having the structural integrity to match the actual subject. If it's a light subject, light jokes. What is the deal with McDonald's? That's not hard. It's a featherweight joke topic and a featherweight joke. But the heavier the topic, the stronger the jokes have to be. They have to be fucking miracles. And you can't bypass that. It's not the subject that's the problem most of the time. And most of the people who bitch about saying they won't let you joke about anything where it's PC culture, blah, blah, blah. It's not PC culture. Your jokes aren't strong enough. They're not that funny. The subject is that big. Your jokes have to be that funny. And if they're and the heavier the thing is, if they're this short of being strong enough, they collapse as if they were toothpicks. That's the responsibility. There is no fucking edge. And everybody knows that in my stand-up, I have literally joked about every subject that people talk about people getting canceled for. I have talked about those topics. I've joked about those subjects. And I've never had any of my jokes come back to bite me in the ass. And the videos are everywhere. There's tons of it online. Because my jokes are funny enough to support the topic, and my philosophy and my idea matches the content of the joke. I'm not joking just because it's a joke that exists. I'm like, I wrote it. I don't believe it, but it's funny, I think, because people are stupid and they'll laugh at it. I'm not living a lie through my comedy just for the sake of a joke that will work in abstract from me. This is my point of view. That's what comedy is to me. It's real. And to me, my sense of humor is more valuable to my personal identity than my sexuality or my gender. It is on the hierarchical scale of me giving value to the world. Me being funny is more important to my value in the world than whether or not I'm male or whether or not I'm straight. Does that make sense? It is more, funny is more important to me than that. So anybody who tries to take funny away from anybody because they don't like being the butt of the joke in any particular sense, or they give more power to that joke topic than it deserves because they feel like it's an attack on them, not recognizing that that pushing back on those things, saying people aren't able to joke about you in whatever form they do, or their own misunderstanding, which is in the case of Dave Chappelle's joke, what his jokes are, and we've done this class before. But Dave Chappelle's jokes are not about transgender people. Dave Chappelle's jokes in that special, because he talks about his friend Daphne at the end of it, Dave Chappelle's jokes are not about transgenderism or the transgender community. All of his jokes are about his understanding or lack thereof of the transgender community. That's what the actual jokes are about. The topic is transgender people. The jokes are about his lack of understanding or his inability to understand these things and how they don't fit with his worldview, and he's trying to figure it out. That's what jokes are for. Jokes are a way of telling, and by the way, the reason he's telling them is because the audience that watches his shows are in the same cul-de-sac. They're stuck in this I don't get it area. And there are a lot of people who believe that the way you get people out of emotional and moral and ethical and cul-de-sacs of lack of understanding is to yell at them to get out of there. And it doesn't work. As a matter of fact, people would rather be right than happy most of the time. So if you tell them, fuck you, you're in a cul-de-sac, they'll say, I'm staying in the cul-de-sac. No, he definitely said he was a TERF. This is an apologetic for a bigot. No, he's making the point that he didn't realize there was a term for what he thinks he is because he does, from his perspective, that's where it comes from. I'm telling you, the jokes are about misunderstanding. And if you don't think they are, what you're saying is that the transgender community is either on shakier ground in their existence than he does. This is just real. And again, I'm not telling you morally or ethically my POV on stand-up. You know what mine is. You can tell through my jokes. I'm telling you how crowds and human beings, large swaths of them, understand or don't understand ideas. And there are ways of changing ideas in people's heads. And force is the worst one. Comedy and allowing for comedy and expression and people finding their way through, joking about the circumstance you find yourself or your misunderstanding is the step before that. And you must understand, support, and recognize the reality of that. Just telling you. And you don't have to. You can think it's wrong, but it exists. Not understanding the importance of telling jokes about where people are on their growth curve. Because even at the end of that special, he says, Daphne says to him, I don't need you. He goes, I don't understand you as a transgender. I don't understand it. Which is true. He's just being truthful. He doesn't understand it. He can't. Arguably couldn't. Why would we need diversity if everybody magically understands everybody else, right? I know what they're going to say. I know what they believe. It's ridiculous. But he goes, I don't understand it. She goes, I don't need you to understand it. I just need you to know I'm a human being having an experience. And he says, I just need you to know the exact same thing. What he's saying is he's evolving. He doesn't know. And you can tell him fucking grow up and learn and be woke and figure your shit out. That's not going to make him do it. And matter of fact, most people, it entrenches that belief. So when someone doesn't understand you, when someone doesn't get you, especially when it's new and you're still figuring yourself out, it is always valuable to express the charity you would want from others in yourself. And a lot of people, certain people can't. So the ally community and other folks, I think, have a responsibility to do it. Like, look, you may not get it, but this is how I came to an understanding about it. I'm at ease with it. Doesn't bother me at all. I don't lose any sleep. I don't concern myself about it. And I'm decent with every person I interact with. Not that hard. You're under the false assumption, for example, that you're supposed to understand it. And as a comedian, by the way, comedians, we are in the understanding business. We say the shit people only think about, or we describe stuff from an obtuse angle because most people fight their challenges in life head on. And comedians look at it askew and give you a different perspective. Is the mechanical aspect of it. And so we're in the understanding business. Most people either give up on understanding, like it's just is what it is. How many times have you heard that? Or they insist that it's the way they think it is, or they just buy into what the other person says and they don't care otherwise. But comedians will also go, why do we think this way? Why? Why are we looking at this way? Is this the only way to look at this? Is everybody making the same mistake? Is the herd moving in a direction that's good for them, or is the herd moving in directions bad for them? Do I know? Where's my place in this? That's the business. And there are lots of people who don't understand. When they looked at Caitlyn Jenner and all that kind of stuff, they just fucking can't get it. And if you tell them, you don't, like, your opinion doesn't matter, and whether or not you get it, fuck you. That's how you create entrenched enemies between it, because they'll never find the bridge because there's no reason to. Why would you make a bridge with someone who destroys your vision of the world when they're just trying to figure out who you are? So that's why comedy has always been important. It's why comedians exist. It's why humans evolved with comedy. It's why we do it. It serves a mechanical purpose in high order societies. Now, if somebody's rude or not funny in their comedy, and it's genuinely not funny, and the crowd knows it, you're not like, I find that offensive on me, but the rest of the crowd is laughing, you're in a different box. That's a point you have to take and recognize, okay, why do they think this is funny? Oh, it's based on this. How do I communicate with this person? What they're doing is leading, like, you get in an Andrew Dice Clay zone of misogyny, that example, right? It's a recognition of the kind of offensive waste of it, and where the comedian might not be aware that he's just reinforcing a bad idea. And he goes, there another way you can make these jokes and the kind of generalized thing without weaponizing assholes all over the place. And a lot of those people have short shelf lives on their careers for that very reason. Because what started out as a kind of cathartic, well, we'll tell him, ends as, this guy's a fucking pig. And he's cranking out, his audiences are full of assholes who aren't laughing anymore. That's just clapter. They're just applauding everything he says instead of laughing. So, and comedy is about the evolution of society, because society will introduce things that are either good for us or bad for us, but are certainly new. And comedians are one of the ways we gain perspective on stuff. That said, the first job of a comedian is humor, is laughter. And if you can't infuse the same kind of laughter in the topics you're dealing with, then you're just not there yet. I don't care who you are. You have to deal with the limitations of your own talent. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people get way out over their fucking skis, especially people who have a career being funny and are assumed to be funny, and then they think they can be funny about everything. Ask Michael Richards about that. Michael Richards, because he was hilarious on Fridays and on Seinfeld, thought that as a stand-up he could go from 0 to Lenny Bruce in 2 seconds, and he couldn't. So anyways, the essence of it, and what I want to leave you guys with, is that like we look at the Greg Kellys of the world and the Tucker Carlsons of the world, and we do not allow them to own our anxiety or emotions or take our sense of our center away from us, or put people in a position of worry where you're less functional than you would be in the world. The same thing applies to comedy. And I think you can do it. What's the GOAT? GOAT is greatest of all time. That's it. Penny Loco, watch my last video. I reached past my talent. Great. So this is crucial, that you handle comedy and the type of stuff in comedy the way you handle in the recognition that we're in the world of comedy. If you handle comedy as if it's war, people will write off what your attack on it as a killjoy, which is exactly what happened when people walked out of Netflix. It had zero impact. And it's not because I didn't want it to have an impact, or that it couldn't have, or handled better it would have. Fucking didn't. It had none. As a matter of fact, it entrenched people's feelings about Chappelle and what he was saying, and proved that the opposition and the people who were attacking him about it seemed to be humorless and angry, and it basically presented themselves in the same way that Greg Kelly does every day. And always know that the greatest attack you can do on a comedian, doesn't work on me, but I've seen it work on others, is to go, yeah, I just thought it could have been funnier. Always works. Except on me. Because it can't be. You know what I'm saying? But also, like, the bit could have been funnier, and I just don't think it's there yet. Like, I get what you're trying to say. I just don't think you can say it. Yeah, it's the Midwestern goodbye. Yeah. So, and again, if you want to find an audience that will shit on comics for, overreaching or saying something that's somehow off limits or whatever, there's plenty of shows that will reinforce that belief and let you think that and all that kind of stuff. I'm just not one of them. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be the guy that tells you that's okay. And that there's a qualitative difference between joking and screaming. And if you scream back at jokes, no matter how correct you might be, or how true you might feel to your own ethics or whatever, it will never land because you're screaming at jokes. And I know what you wanted. Maybe it shouldn't be that way. Well, it is. It is. That's how it is. I hope that helps, and I hope it cheers you up, and I hope you don't worry so much about stuff like that. And therefore, when you're confronted with something, or somebody says something offensive that genuinely might be hurtful to someone in the audience, you've got your wits about you in a way that instead of just being shocked, you actually find where you're funny. Maybe you got a retort that overwhelms it, right? This is always about having more of you present in every moment and never letting anyone scare off any of you. No part of you. is ever given away to somebody else's desire to make you feel anxious, afraid, worried, broken, deny your existence. Nobody can fucking deny your existence. No one. And anybody who tells you that someone can deny your existence by the words they say is worse for you than the person they are warning you about. All right, that's it. I got to go. You're awesome. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else in the process. Be good to each other. And you're awesome. Okay, bye.